Hello, my name is Wolf. These are all the guitars that will barely let me sit on the couch. You see, I have no room over here. Anyway, we've gotten a new guitar today. A Les Paul Studio. Just the way I like them. Somebody even put Grover tuners on it. Hot damn. Has the 498Rs and 490Ts, which some people don't like, I know, but through a solid state amp, ooh, they sound good, I think. It's the most consistent sound, and I love Les Pauls. This one's set up with a 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a tech video today and go ahead and go through swapping out 9s for 10s and talk about what guitar players mean by that. All we're talking about is the gauge of the high E string. 10, and that's actually 7 strings, but you'll see that's 9. Okay. The idea with these different strings is that 9s are a little bit more comfortable, obviously, but you get a little more tone from 10s, and I find that Les Pauls seem to respond to 10s really well. When they have 9s on them, they buzz a little bit. This guitar buzzes. It's super comfortable, but we're going to put 10s on it, and you see what someone's done with the bridge back here? They've done that. Dropped this all the way to the bottom, which isn't necessary with 10s sometimes, or, you know, I don't know this guitar yet. It's new to me, so we're going to get into it together, and hopefully everybody learns a little bit of something. Good Lord, I can English. So hopefully we all learn a little bit of something about how to set up a Les Paul and restring it, especially when you get it home from the store new. Well, used. This is obviously a used guitar. And it's checkered and has some checkering, but the cool thing about this is it's got a mahogany top. What in the world? And it is actually a top. There is a seam here. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but it is a top, a seam, and it's a 2010. So it's, you know, it's not weight relieved. It's heavy as heck. It must be about 12 pounds. So we're going to put big old strings on it, and it's going to sound amazingly large. It'll sound like a thunderclap. So we're going to do the video from this view because what's important is how we manipulate some of this stuff. Okay. And I'll turn it up and face it to the camera so we can get a good look at those kind of things too. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing we do is go ahead and loosen all the strings because I'm going to clean her up, and I want to take the bridges off. You see how that buzzes? Yeah, you know, this means it's going to need a truss rod adjustment, or sometimes just putting 10s on it will bring a Gibson back to where she wants to be. I love the guitar shop I got it from. Their tech's fantastic. He's got a great action going here. But I'm sure they asked him to set it up with 9s. Most of these come from the factory with 10s. This guitar has obviously been customized and used, more checking on it, which is just fine. I kind of go for guitars that are beat up because it means, you know, this one has a great neck too. It's only been around, again, 2013 they started changing a lot of the features, and I like the old heavy, just big chunks of wood with old 498 T's and R's through a solid state amp. It is super consistent at any volume, and over the years gigging I learned that tends to... Tube amps always sound differently to me. You know, they sound differently depending on the state of the tube. They sound differently depending on the weather. Everything's a little different. What I'm doing is going through with a set of wire cutters after I've loosened and just chopping the strings. Okay. I'm just going to chop them and pull them off. Well, go ahead and use the camera to see what we're doing here. Sorry, my ugly mug has to be in it. To get these strings off, they've been wound. You just unwind them. No big deal. that was done with a string winder. Somebody was efficient about it. Oh, I'm going to show you. I don't tie them. I don't do anything like that. As a matter of fact, I do maybe 1 or 2 turns and then tighten them that way. Because the more of these coils, I find that the more tendency it has to slip. And these are nice Grover tuners, so they're going to hold and lock in place. So it's not necessary to do all this. But, you know, if you're a guitar store tech, you want everything to look a certain way and sound a certain way, and I'm sure he's done a billion of them. Again, he's one of my favorite techs, so I'm not running the guy down. There's just, you need to set up your guitar the way you're comfortable with it, okay? And now we're going to take a look at our bridge. We've got our cut strings in there. These bridges are held by gravity, so it's just going to slide right off, okay? I'm sorry if you didn't see that. Let me do it again. I was looking at the guitar, and I'm not a very good cameraman. Okay, these just slide right off. All right. We're going to go back to our other and have a look at what we're doing back here with the bridge. Let's see. Can we see that? Yeah. So we've taken our bridge off. We want to see what's in there. I imagine it's going to be a ABR1 or... Oh, okay. Advanced plating. I haven't seen that on a Gibson. Maybe somebody swapped it out. I don't know. There's all kinds of different parts on Gibsons sometimes. It's a nice heavy bridge, so don't care where it came from because this guitar is great with the parts that are put together. Let's make sure everything turns. Yep, you can turn all this stuff with thumbs. This bridge also comes right up. And then you see this post, lefty loosey, righty tighty, and that's going to give us our string heights. Okay. Our intonation is actually in here, and you turn these with a screwdriver to move these back and forth and get the string intonated. We'll see if we have to do that. The way you check that is play the string open and then pluck it on a fret. Here's my cleaner. This guitar was in pretty good shape at the store, but still got some fingerprints on it. I like to wipe them down. It's a satin finish, so very easy to clean. So something else, when you run your fingers along the fretboard, you may seem sometimes guitars get sharp there. And if those frets do get sharp, okay, Amazon, music stores, they sell files. You see how it's got a grooved edge inside? And you literally work the file up and down the edge of the fret without hitting the wood. Okay, this is tech stuff that you have to be careful with, but if you're willing to kind of dive in and take the responsibility, I find it really rewarding to work on guitars because you can set it up exactly the way you want it. Trying to tell a tech what you like is yeah, you know, you have to, it takes some effort, you know, for them to understand exactly what you want. And in the end, you know, I'm going to play with this and get it close by eye and by guess. And then we're going to get all the math right. And then we're going to feel the rest, you know. All right. I'm throwing stuff around and getting the last little B string off the Grover. It wants to be argumentative today. Like I said, the tech did a really good job of stringing this, but I don't loop them like this. He has a method where he loops and ties and then does a million wraps, none of which I find necessary. You may, but again, personal preferences are one of the reasons guitars are amazing. If you're watching my channel, I really appreciate it. I think we only have a few subscribers, so this information is just my way of trying to give back. I don't really want anything. Everybody wants their YouTube channel to succeed and have subscribers, and I do too. So, of course, I would love to have people watching me. And to the people that already do, Well, you just make my day on a general basis. Thank you. Okay. So, we threw our bridge on the floor. Great thing about a player's guitar, you know, they have Gibsons that are, this is a used Les Paul, so it comes in at right around $900. It's also fairly beat up, so they're not looking for a premium at this point, but it's a player's guitar. And one of the salesmen at the music store let me know it's the guitar he always picks up to demo things. And as soon as you touch this guitar, you can feel that it's just hard to put down. It sounds amazing and it's hard to put down. So everything looks to be in order. We're going to get new strings on it and start to do the adjustments that we need to do. If we have to do the truss rod, what's going to happen there is we're going to take these two screws off, and then we're going to use a hex key to adjust that truss rod. And I believe I have a Gibson tool laying right here. Yes, we do. Okay. This happened to come with one of my other Gibsons. If you can't get a hold of these, or if you don't have one of these, you get a hold of them by simply asking the music store guys. They usually have them laying around. They should come with your Gibson though, so it's something that you should ask, even unused. Mine didn't. What are you going to do? They don't always keep all the case candy, and people don't think about it, or they leave these little tools at home. I almost don't want to know the sad story of why someone sold this guitar, because I'm sure it wasn't a happy day for them, if they were a player at all. This guitar has a very cool vibe. Alright. Get our strings going. I like Ernie balls because I'm an old man, and all old men play Ernie balls. I don't know, I'm just playing. No, they're just a string that I've used forever, and they seem to be consistent. I don't have to argue with them. Even when I'm setting up the Floyd Rose trims, they seem to work very nicely. So what we had here is this guy had this bridge super low. So what was happening is the strings were actually hitting the back before they were hitting there, and I'm not a fan of that. So we're going to bring the bridge way, 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 way up from what he did. So we're doing left turns. Oof. We're going to take the bridge off to do the turns, because obviously it's a straight metal bridge, so as you turn one side, the other side gets tense. Okay. This is not science or math, people. This is, I'm sure you can go through and find exact Gibson specs for exactly how high your poles are supposed to be, but in the end, it's going to come down to, you're going to adjust it to a point that feels good, you know, to where the string tensions are right for you. I don't want the string hitting the back there. I want a good follow through on the string, and that's what we've got with that height. So literally, we're going by eye on that. And then we're going to plug it in and play it. And that's what's going to determine how things sound. Be careful with these strings. Don't pop yourself in the eye. They're always coiled up, and they are a piece of steel. And they are sharp on the end. You also want to be disciplined about cleaning them up. They tear up vacuum cleaners. Just some tips you might not know if you're just beginning. If I don't cover anything, let me know. And if you are watching and have a guitar that's like one of the ones on the couch, but not this bridge, that's a Fender or Floyd Rose's. Happy to go through them. Most guitars are either the setup or the traditional Fender spring bridge, and Ibanez makes, you know, people return to them as a Floyd Rose or a locking trim. Ibanez calls it the Edge Pro Tremolo 2, I believe. Something along those lines. And they deserve to be able to call it something different because it's extremely stable. But nonetheless, I'll do a video on how to do those next time. They're a little more complicated. Basically, I'll do the video when it needs to change strings, because just changing strings for no reason is fairly silly and contrived. I've had a lot of people ask, what's the proper way and time to, well, not the way, but the time, change strings. And I know gigging musicians, that'll change them every night, every other night, but this is playing 3 hours. And they're usually not changing them themselves. Some people do it as much as a week. When I worked in a music store, I got a little obsessed and did them every week. Now I tend to kind of do them when the guitar starts to lose a little bit of tone, a little bit of snap, because I'm using most of these guitars for recording. So again, this is a personal preference thing. Eddie Van Halen would boil his strings, or preferred to use ancient strings that had already been used up. Got a tickle in my nose. You know when it burns down from your nose to your throat? I don't know where that came from. Sipping water is dangerous, apparently. Alright, so we've got our bridge a lot higher than they had it. We may find out why he had it that high when we plug in and see what's going on and see what intonation is like, but I have a feeling it was to compensate. He wanted a straight neck, which is understandable, of course. When you go buy a guitar, you don't want to look at a warped, super heavy concave neck. You wonder and worry why, you know, it's that extreme. So we're working with the headstock mostly now. Let's get a different view going on the camera. Woo! There are a lot of tools to do your headstock restring. One of the reasons I love Gibsons is you can do it with your fingers. So what we're going to do is we're actually lining the pole up so that the hole's this way, so that I don't have to do a million twists, because I don't like that technique. These are good tuners, they're locking tuners, and it's a solid guitar. Everything in the right place. You see how I've got tension fairly loose. I'm not going to do a whole lot of coils. And any of these tuners that come up loose too will know about it. When they don't have string tension on them, you can feel when they're loose, and we'll simply use a screwdriver to tighten them up. Loose tuners end up making the strings slip. Now you see what I've done there, pointing the excess string straight up. So we're going to need a neck adjustment on this. I can almost tell, just because we've got, of course, we need to get all the strings on them and the pitch. And we'll see what happens there. We can always loosen it up again. Well, we may be okay. Let's get the other strings going. Now you'll notice, here's what I'm talking about minimal winding needs. That is one turn and it goes straight up. It's not going anywhere. It'll never move. That turn, it's not going to slip out. I'm sure there are folks that will tell you that that is probably a sin and that I should be shot for suggesting such a thing. But I like to suggest alternatives, and then maybe you try out what works for you. I have a lot of guitars, and I don't like string winders. I find string winders that go very fast leave a lot of play in the string. And this is actually a tuning accuracy thing. Okay. We're going to do the same thing with this string. We slide it through almost at length. Hold our finger there to get it to bend. Put it straight up. And then we've got that angle crink in it already holding it. I'm pulling up with these fingers and pushing down with the index finger to keep pressure. It already is sounding and kind of feeling better with tens. Remember, and with the bridge adjusted the right way. Our D string was a problem. He buzzed really bad. He buzzed all the way to the 5th fret with 9s and that particular setup. So let's see if he's going to come around with just 3 strings on there, not really at pitch. Because as you bring the strings to pitch, it moves the neck forward. Something to absolutely remember, especially when you're doing what I'm doing, which is moving a guitar up from 9s to 10s. Well, that's a problem because of where I put the string. I didn't have it in the right back bracket in the back here. Already the buzz is starting to go away. Something about Les Pauls, they just love 10s. I think it's because the thicker, nice thick necks and good quality old wood they use. It's just made from this is a 50s design where people had much thicker strings on, because usually, what we're really trying to do with an electric is get an acoustic louder. That's all we're trying to accomplish here. And then, it became its own sort of thing. But the original acoustic or electrics had strings just like acoustics. They were huge, very large. And you'll have to excuse me for putting my face in the guitar. I'm old and my eyes only work at limited angles. Yes, even with the glasses. That's why I play with my eyes closed. I couldn't see the frets if I wanted to. All right. So we're going through now on the G string, doing the same thing. My technique, we keep a little slack, bend it in until it catches. Now we do a few more turns on the unwound strings because they don't have the same grip, and we don't want these guys slipping. I don't want a million turns in them either, but I don't want them slipping. So I've actually put probably a half a turn on that. Don't let me take away from anything a guitar teacher has said or a method that you do. If I do something differently, it's because I'm weird. I just like to show people that there's always a little bit different way. And the correct way is your way. The correct way is what consistently works for you. What gets you your sound. What's comfortable for you. That's what it's all about. That's why guitar is wonderful. Even the process of stringing the guitar is, in a way, it's absolutely self-expression. Not in a way, it is. All right. We're working down through our last strings here. None of the tuners have been hesitant yet, meaning none of them slipped or showed any signs that anything is loose. Grover makes amazing tuners. They have this wonderful high black lacquer on them. They look fantastic in the headstock with the Les Paul logo. And they'll keep this guy in tune. I have a 58 Tribute. It's nothing expensive. They actually made them in 2018. It's just called a Tribute, and it's like a 58. Actually, the only difference between that and a real 1958 gold top is something called a long tenon joint, which you can see when you take the front pickup off. It's about 2 inches worth of wood that extends off the neck into the body. And it's the difference between the 58, 59 bursts and some of the guitars that are going to be worth 6 figures, and the guitars like this that are, you know, worth $1,000. They didn't make studios with the long neck tenon bursts. I don't believe. That was something they did before the studio. If I'm wrong, correct me in comments. Always willing to learn something about Gibson. The E string tends to be fussy, so he's one of the ones we give a few whines to. We're going to let him go probably a whole turn around the post. Just because he acts badly when he doesn't have a nice solid bass. And he's going to act badly with a couple of turns in him too, but I'll show you how to stretch and seat these strings by literally pulling up on them. And I am so excited about this guitar. The guys at the music store thought it was an ugly duckling that was beat up, and it is, but it's beat up because somebody loved it. And it's a 2010, meaning it has all these features I want, like it's a full, nasty, big chunk of wood. There's no rig relief. It'll give you shoulder and back problems if you try to play it on stage every night. But a heavy guitar with a whole bunch of wood has a tendency to really do it, really sound great. And that's what this guitar is primarily going to be used for, as a recording guitar. So I want all the tone I can squeeze out. So let's see if our experiment worked, and putting on 10s brought the tension right. Sometimes it's just knowledge about the guitars and how they're made. When they make these at the factory and set them up, they do them with 10s. Again, 10s is the gauge of the highest E string. 0.010. And that's considered the thickness or the gauge. Let's get that tuned after I'm hitting the wrong string, because I'm so excited to play this thing. I may seem calm on the exterior, but inside there's a 12-year-old boy jumping up and down, going, hurry up. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And tuning these strings, they're going to move on you a little bit. We still have a problem there. So we're going to need to do a truss rod adjustment, but that is a great excuse to show you guys how to do that. And this is why you learn to set up your own guitars, so you learn how to handle problems. We're also going to check the nut too, because all the other strings are good. We might have a problem in the nut. which we'll fill with a little plastic for a temporary fix. Yeah, the nut seems just fine. So we're going to look at the next culprit, which is usually intonation, or excuse me, the neck. We also may be able to fix this with a simple adjustment on the bridge. We'll see what the action's like. Whoa! New strings like to stretch. This one is really fussy, yeah. Stay with me, we're getting it tuned to as close as to pitch so it can get used to these tens before we really start working on it. Sometimes letting it adjust to what you're doing is smart. And necessary, because it's going to adjust tomorrow anyway. The action needs to come up on this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen all the strings now again. And we're going to try to fix this issue because it's just right on the edge here. I mean, we don't want to get our action too high so it's unplayable. We're loosening our strings so we can hand loosen the bolts at the bridge, which will bring the bridge up. Because the whole thing is a little buzzy. And the neck is dead straight. So quite often they need a little concave. The problem is you don't want to put enough concave in, if not necessary, because it makes playing at the higher frets more difficult. Okay, so here's how we actually do this. I'm literally just using my fingers. Whoop, let's get over there. Yeah. Okay, and these wheels turn. Let's get the right thing. Yeah. These wheels turn left and right. Okay. When you turn them left, the screw comes out and right pushes the screw in. So we want a little bit of distance up. So we're going to go, I went right when I meant to go left. So we're going to go a little left. And then reach over to the other side. And also bring that one counterclockwise or left. Left is loose, right is tight. Helps out a lot. And then we're going to retune and see if we got there. And this is why techs charge you money for this stuff, because it gets tedious to do. And to get it absolutely right takes a little bit of dedication. I'm already liking the way the open strings aren't buzzing as much. You can also use machine rulers if you want to more track it and approach it that way. I do it in a very, let's try this, let's go to here, because I've been doing it for a long time. But if you want to use a ruler and adjust it by small degrees that you can measure, that's great. It's a good way to track it, you know. Write down you went however many quarters of an inch or millimeters at a time. And then use that as your reference point and then save it. So when you restring and set up again, you have it. Woo! New string stretch. And the guitar is stretching too. The neck is moving. There's a metal truss rod in the neck that keeps it stable. The D's getting a lot closer to what we want. And it's still playable. The high frets, so I think we're getting close here. As a matter of fact, when the guitar sort of adjusts as I play it tonight. Oh yeah, there is our D mode. Are you going to come around for me? There'll be a little bit of, tiny little bit of string buzz, but we won't hear it if my amp will ever turn up. Huh. Oh, yeah, it's connected to the studio, so it's not going to make a sound. Let's try that. So we don't have any string buzz coming through the amp. So we lucked out there, and with just a few adjustments back here, raising this to where I needed it to be, a little more comfortable. Pretty cool. And one of the reasons I love these guitars, whoa, big old tone. Just that mahogany top makes it sound extra bluesy, man. Yes, sir.